Today we have our foreign guest here with an open lecture to us, to all of us. For the second course is must to attend this lecture. For the others is for your interest. So our guest came from Ukraine. He was a Ukrainian Marine. He served from 2014 until 2021. So he just retired or went to the reserve with the first lieutenant rank. And now he's working with a veteran organization in the Ukraine. And so he have a real fighting experience with the Marines. Most of them fighting experience, most of it is near the Mariupol, near the Black Sea, where was the clashes between the Ukrainian forces and the separate forces and the Russian, mainly Russian organized separatist forces. And he has some experience. He will talk all about his life, about his motivation, and about the Ukrainians' motivation to fight. And of course, some intelligence operations, because he worked in the Recce unit, in the platoon, in the company, in the sniper, if I'm exactly, in the sniper unit. So, and after the presentation, after his speech, please give him a big wave of questions, because he asked me, give me some questions before. I'm say that no, Andrei, you will have a hot table here. Okay, and let me introduce you, first lieutenant in reserve, Andrei Pedlisny. The floor is yours.
Hello to everyone. My name is Andrei Pedlisny. It will be a more speech than lecture, and it calls my service. About 8 rules that I learned being before service and being on service on the war. On November 30, 2013, footage of Ukrainian security forces brutally beating students on Independence Square went all over the world. I remember the day and my feelings well. I am 19 years old, a typical and average boy with a down-to-earth desires and interests. Nothing special, so to say. But I heard that call. In a few days, along with millions of others like me, I was already on Maidan. It's a square in Kiev. I didn't have any self-defense equipment or skills to protect myself. The only thing that prompted me to go to Maidan at the time was my patriotic upbringing and a thirst for justice. The first rule I learned exactly during that time is that life will always offer you a choice between a warm bed and a cold shower. And you have the opportunity to choose between comfortable neutrality or going against your own survival instinct, but remaining honest with yourself. What came next was annexation. Tens of thousands of Russian soldiers broke into Crimea under the guise of self-defense, was first disses and first betrayed. The military and civilians who were there at the time also made their choice to betray their motherland in exchange of ephemeral material gain, or to remain loyal to their state while being forced to leave their homes. For those who remained loyal to their state, it was incomprehensible how yesterday's friends and brethren with whom they had been friends for years betrayed them for money and promises. A huge number of citizens on mainland Ukraine for a long time could not understand that allegedly friendly Russia yesterday, allegedly ally and brotherly country, will carry out a design sneak and will start occupation actions on the territory of Ukraine. We could not believe in that till the beginning of the war on Donbass. Observing the events that took place in Crimea, I defined the second rule for myself. Mistakenly chosen friends or allies will sooner or later lead to treason. What came next was a war. And for the first time, I realized that there is no anti-terroristic operation, but a large-scale war. When I watched a YouTube video where our militants were being shot near Volnovakha village. In that video, a warrior was relieving of the consequences of enemy sabotage, bodies of dead, blood, and explosions. All the realities of war in one footage. I remembered his voice well. He was praying with pain and despair. It seemed to me that he was alone on that battlefield. At that day, 17 warriors died and 32 were wounded. And that's when I realized that I have to be there. I need to go to war. I started collecting documents for contracted military service. At the end of 2014, after training, I entered the front for the first time, staying side by side with my brethren in the defense of the motherland. I was a member of the Scout Sniper Group. We lived in the basement of a destroyed house. In a premise of 4 meters by 2 meters lived together a major, a captain, a lieutenant, a senior soldier, and me and my friend. 2 ordinary soldiers for that time. For more than 3 months, we were doing military tasks together, preparing food, repairing our premises after the fire, and even celebrating New Year's Eve. Imagine a half-destroyed basement, volleys of grass instead of fireworks, a small Christmas tree with a handmade garland connected to an electric pillar, and an Oliver salad from a local volunteer. It was a place where ranks, positions, age, achievements, and material conditions did not matter. You were judged by what kind of person you are. At that moment, I began to form a personality. And I discovered the third rule for myself. Even with nothing, you can still retain the most prestigious thing, being a human. I cannot say that I did not make mistakes or always behaved in the future correctly regarding subordinate personnel, but I took it as a rule to carry out a self-reflection to understand where and when I have turned the wrong way. In early 2015, I was a part of a unit that stormed the village Shirokina. This picture square place on the seashore was completely destroyed during military actions in a matter of weeks. On the one hand, beautiful colored vacation houses, an illusion of peaceful life, the sea, and the other, craters, dishes, destroyed military equipment, and civilians with empty eyes. Ghost village, I thought at that time. Armored personnel carrier APC with fallen soldiers of the Azov regiment arrived to us on February 15 during active military actions. There was one key moment that changed me there. The APC returned from the epicenter of the fire, and they pulled out the fallen fighters. Then, from the inside, the blood was just washed away by the water, like in the film Fury with Brad Pitt. And we were informed that we will go next. To make it easier for you to understand my situation, I was armed with a Soviet SVD rifle with a 4-fold optical sight, which is absolutely not designed for conduct combat operations for a distance by 10-30 meters. And I did not have a first aid kit because I made use of it all to help a wounded comrade. At that moment, instead of fear or hopelessness, I felt a sharp injustice that right now, in my 20 years old, I will be brought back here shortly and the blood will be washed away after me too. Together with the feeling of injustice, I felt a thirst for life. And with all my inner self, I realized that more than anything else in the world, I just want to live. But after a few minutes, I realized the importance of the situation and got myself together. After those events, I realized that I adore life, but sometimes, in order to achieve common success, you have to sacrifice your own security. In other words, then and again, several times after that, put my own principles before my own life, and that's my fourth rule. In summer 2019, during a fire contact with the enemy at a distance of about 20 meters, the commander of reconnaissance platoon, Ivan Sakal, and his subordinate sergeant were wounded, and another soldier, Denis Kozma, was missing. He did not come out with the others from the forest plantation where the fight took place. And then, on the instructions of the battalion commander, a new group was formed, chaired by me, to find and draw out Denis, who might still be alive. And in spite of the titanic efforts, this task was not fulfilled. The command decided that it was too dangerous for our group to attack the enemy. Even so, we entered the enemy from the rear. In other words, from the back. And as it turned out, they were right. For 6 persons of our group, 16 enemy scouts was waiting to us. And even with the effect of surprise, that would have only a short-term advantage and would mostly likely result in the death of the entire group. A few more nights after the incident, the enemy faked a moan and scream, luring us into a trap. A few days later, the wounded commander of the reconnaissance platoon, Ivan Sakal, died in the hospital, and Sergeant Denis Kozma, whom we were looking for, was later found to have sustained life-threatening injuries and died instantly during the battle. I was not a close friend of the victims, but I knew them very well, because the commander of the reconnaissance platoon had been in the military service since 2014, and the missing sergeant was my subordinate in 2015. They were very light and good people, professionals and patriots of their country. But the war absorbed them, despite their qualities. The 5th rule is that life is cruel and unfair. And you have to accept that and not create the illusion in your head that everything will pass you by, that everything will be fine. In summer 2020, the new commander of the reconnaissance platoon, Dmitro Krasnogrud, was killed during a military mission, having blown up an anti-personnel mine. A special group from different units was sent to search and evacuate him. Under the terms of temporary truce, we had to find and take him back. However, due to the violation of the algorithm of such events by our commands, the enemy ambushed and from a distance of about 20 meters, using natural camouflage and terrain relief, opened a heavy fire with small arms. After we moved back, 2 members of my group informed me that Yaroslav Zhurovel has died immediately on the spot. Aware of the risk of further casualties, and given that the group was assembled from a variety of people, including non-combat units who were essentially ballasted, I decided to retreat to my positions. As soon as we returned, the radio station reported the aerial reconnaissance had found Yaroslav. He was alive, but he was wounded, rolling towards to our positions. The moment I was told Yaroslav is alive, I was extremely happy. But my joy was quickly replaced by internal disappointment when, instead of an identical joy in the eyes of the participants, I saw a distance. And I realized that the only 2 people willing to save Yaroslav were me and the combat medic. There was an opportunity to simply go back, sit in the risks and the smaller number of group. But then I made my choice, not being afraid to take responsibility. We were only 10 meters away, and if the other top commanders weren't afraid of responsibility either, and even if it were just luck on our side that way, we would have been able to pull him out, even if it was just of 2 of us. Due to the enemy shooting during an evacuation attempts 10 meters from the place where the drone identified Yaroslav, the combat medic Mykola Ilyin was killed. He was an ethnic Belarusian and due to political persecution lived in Estonia. And with the outbreak of war in Ukraine, joined our struggle. As for me, I was briefly knocked by RPG-7 and was forced to move towards to our positions. That incident is my own tragedy of a lifetime, because after my evacuation to hospital, there was no other attempt to save Yaroslav Zhuravell, and he was bleeding for about 2 days. He was very close and probably heard that he was not left, and we were trying to save him. It was important to me because we were always taught to save our own people. And even if your comrade is dead, it's your duty to bring him home. After death, all members of the armed forces are entered in the register of the unit in which they performed their military service. And every evening, before the personal check, the names of those who are no longer with us are being read. So sometimes luck can be against you, and sometimes it won't be on your side. But then, analyzing dozens, if not hundreds of times of that day, I realized one thing, and it's my 6th rule. Don't be afraid to take responsibility. Your fear could cost someone's life. During my 7 years of military service, I was a sniper, a unit commander, a platoon chief sergeant, a platoon commander, a chief of intelligence, a commander of the planning group, and for some time a deputy battalion commander. I studied constantly at my commanders, and I went through a great number of internal and international exercises with Americans, British, Georgians, Czech, and Lithuanians. Indeed, it was in Kaunas that I received the NATO International Standards Instructor Certificate, and I will be grateful to your country for gained knowledge for my entire life. I applied gained skills in a variety of positions, and by combining knowledge from different military directions, sometimes I was able to generate completely new, unconventional ideas. It's an ongoing process of self-improvement. And I can tell you confidently that even with my skills and knowledge, I understand everything moves and changes so fast that you cannot stop in your development for a second. In 6 months since I've been out of the war, the fighting has once again gone through an evolutionary phase. Nowadays, the war in Donbass is a game of experience, innovation, and technology, and it is won by someone who constantly improves, analyzes, and introduces something new. As an example, in 2014, the use of civilian drones was rather rare. As of 2021, both drones and methods of combating them have changed. There are hundreds of drones used not only for reconnaissance but also for artillery, sabotage, psychological, and agitation against the enemy. And in addition to the above methods, the enemy also uses drones to deliver Geneva Convention proscribed POM-2 anti-personnel mines, which do not explode immediately, but only when someone touches a wire that is dropped 10 meters from the mine. And for the mine, it doesn't matter if it's military or civilian. However, electromagnetic rifles given to us by Lithuania help to destroy these copters, and other equipment purchased by volunteers also indicate coordinates of the enemy pilots, allowing once and for all to the end the core of treacherous actions. So my advice to you, which is the 7th rule, study while you have time. In the war, the bullet is faster than teaching. The 8th and the final rule says, remember who you are and what purpose your information. Media and psychological tools have not yet been abolished, and I have witnessed them on several occasions during my military service. The enemy using his minions in your country and the media to alter your history, heroes, culture, achievement, faith, will use the facts and play at your internal infightings, will recollect a common history, and in that atmosphere adopt and accumulate. Indeed, the above-mentioned facts were one of the reasons for the massive desertion in Crimea. However, those who remained loyal to their country know and remember their history. The history of their struggle for independence from Kiev Rus to the present times. The annexation of Crimea has united non-indifferent citizens, has awakened at a genetic level their thirst for freedom, and all of them have joined side by side in their struggle and still hold back the enemy onslaught. Similar parallels of historical facts have been cited in the case of Lithuania. Your famous forest brothers clearly demonstrated how to fight occupiers on your native land. You have someone to take an example from, and I am extremely happy that Ukraine has such an ally. Thus, to sum up, I will briefly repeat these 8 rules. So first, life will always offer you a choice between a warm bath and a cold shower. Second, mistakenly chosen friends or allies will sooner or later lead to treason. The third one, even with nothing, you can still retain the most precious thing, being human. The fourth one, always put your own principles before your own life. Fifth, sometimes life is cruel and unfair, even your pink unicorns aren't always friendly. The sixth one, don't be afraid to take responsibility. Your fear could cost someone's life. 7, study while you have time. In war, the bullet is faster than teaching. And the 8th one, remember who you are and for what purpose you are information. These rules are written by war, and as you may have noticed, my speech is based on the tragic pages of my life, not on loud victories and success. But that is the essence of war. It gives you an invaluable experience, but the price for that experience is incomparably high. The choice of everyone is to hear or to ignore what you have just heard. But it should be remembered that history is cyclical, and the phrase, "want peace, prepare for war," is more relevant now than ever. I'm grateful to the leadership of the Academy, as well as to organizers of this event for the opportunity to address you. It's an honor for me. Glory to Ukraine, glory to Lithuania. If you have...
We moderated the question.
So I have one question for you, and kind of short course, and we all know that Russia is very strong and capable when we talk about Russian hybrid warfare technologies and capabilities. So the question would be how you fight against Russian hybrid warfare capabilities when you're in operation area of operations, what you do with phones, with smartwatches, with these things that are very popular right now.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and phones and similar devices is a very big problem for us. So we now say that it's not normal to get it with them, with soldiers, I mean privates, on the battlefield, but usually it happens and it can bring a lot of problems. So enemy can find your coordinates only by your phone, even if it turn out. So about new technologies, yes, we improve ourselves too. We make the same technologies against them. So now they use drones, we use anti-drone systems. They use more modern drones, we use bigger systems, and it means about radio protection security too. So they know how to hear our speeches on radio stations. I mean, we use Motorola's and sometimes Chinese Baofeng, and now we use American Harris. It's a good security system, and they didn't hear us.
Is it true that all, let's let's say, old Nokia is safer to use than iPhone.
3310?
Yeah, like 3310. Is it true?
I think it will be better not to use phones in general, yeah.
Kenneth Galushkinas. I have a question. Should I ask in English or Russian, whether it's more comfortable for you?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so how well trained are the Russian soldiers who operate in the eastern Ukraine? Are they well prepared? Are there many differences between the various units, or are they all very? Do they all have very outdated preparation of military training?
And the separate, I will add that, and the separate. What is the difference between fighting against the Russian conventional forces and the separatists, and what's the preparation?
So there is a big difference between 2014 and 2021. So in 2014 we could clearly understand, is it Russians or separatists? Because Russians had more bigger preparations, they were structured, and they worked very good. Separatists was, you know, like Taliban's or another terrorist unit, so you can see it. Now in 2021, separatist is a part of regular Russian forces, so they have the similar structure to Russia. Russian headquarters are headquarters of separatists, and they, all their decisions came from Russia. And now they have the same as we have battalions, brigades, and so on, the similar structure, and it's an answer for your question.
How do you collect the information about the opposite forces? About the Russians or who was on your other side, you know?
Yeah.
Chechens, some mercenaries, or what?
There are big, you know, not one way to find this information. So we monitoring the social sites like Russian Vkontakte, and sometimes separatists or Russian warriors send their photos and information about where they are. It's a problem.
Selfies.
Yeah, like selfies. It's a problem for our army, but in Russia it's a much bigger problem, especially for separatists. So the next way we use drones, and sometimes Russian official or separatist official media publish some, you know, photos or video from training grounds and say that, for example, 5th Brigade of separatists train here and so on. And on that video you can find some inventory numbers of techniques. And even later when you fly by a drone, you can recognize, for example, APC and see the inventory number on it. Then find the same number on some news, and you know that, for example, it's the 5th Brigade. And the another one information is the separatists. So we not always kill them, and sometimes they say who they are and from what formation they are.
So you take like a prisoner of
Yeah, we take prisoners, and they give us all information that they know, and they know a lot of.
And you interrogate, of course, according to all the conventions and etc.
Yeah. Sometimes on their phones you can find, you know, information about all battalion, about all 300 people with surnames and so on, and it's much easier. Nowadays, at this time, we know what enemy stand toward us, who they are from, what brigades, what formation, when they have their rotation, because they rotate every time. And about Russians and the special groups that Russia uses on Donbass, they always speak about it in comments in their social media.
What it's like to deal with the civilians, especially your own countrymen in war?
Civilian facts,
Civilians.
about the Ukrainian,
I understand.
you fight in your country.
Yeah.
More or less, but yeah, it's different.
Yeah, you know, it's a difficult situation for us too, because still some civilians think that separatists are good, that the republics are very well, and Russia will come and this motherland will show us how to live. Ruski Mir, yes, for example. So it's a big problem, but we always work on it, especially militaries too, because when, for example, battalion comes in rotation in GFO zone, We work with civilians, we speak with them, we help them, we give them our food and so on, and speaks on patriotic topics and so on. Sometimes civilians give us a lot of information because a lot of civilians can travel from one side to another by official ways.
Do you send the recce teams like to recognize some places to collect information, you know?
Like in civilian clothes, I mean.
Like human in civilian clothes,
Yeah.
or not human, or just like, you know, sniper teams, recce teams, or recce?
Nowadays it's not often as at the beginning of the war, because we can use drones who flies for about 50 kilometers to enemy's positions, and it's not a problem for us to search something from air. But if we need to take a prisoner, you know, important prisoner, important headquarter of that separatists, yeah, it can be a group in civilian clothes, especially it's guys from Donbas region, because pronunciation of every region is special. So yes, we use sometimes.
One question from the back as well. So I heard some rumors from your colleagues from Ukraine about motivation to fight, the will to fight from a separate side. There were some situations when both sides they didn't want to fight. And have you been in such a situation, or you see some difference between 2014 going to 2021 about that motivation and will to fight from both sides? I believe that your side is motivation to fight high, but what about separate?
Their motivation changed. So in 2014, they were motivated well because they believed in their own republics and so on. Now they understand that they're just a part of Russian project, and that's all. Our motivation is high as well because I was from Marines, from guys who came back from Crimea, who believe in their motherland, and their motivation was very high to kill how many enemies that they can kill. And it was from 2014, and this tradition, this, you know, angry, it comes to 2021. We have a difficult situation now about our peace, because now we can't shoot first, and we just shoot in answer if separatists begin to shoot to our side. And it's a problem because guys who stand in trenches for about months, half a year and sometimes a year, they become some lazy, and it can be a bad joke for them, you know, and very good luck for enemy snipers, because he can go one time not in trench, near the trench, and that's all. So it's a problem now about motivation, about speaking with people that you need to be careful, you need to always be in your protective uniform and so on, but sometimes it went wrong.
I heard that Russians take some cadets at the Donbas to train them for a call for fire, for a sniper.
Yeah. Especially it's artillery groups, snipers groups, anti-tank groups, and sometimes miners. They not only train, they pass exams on Donbas. So.
What exam?
I have read about foreign fighters fighting in Ukraine side. So is it true that you can find foreign fighters on your side? And maybe you can share your own experience about that. Maybe you have fought with someone together from other countries, like Canada, USA, Sweden, Great Britain, Lithuania maybe.
I fought with guys from USA, British guys, and one Mykola Ilyin from Belarus. They are well prepared guys, especially the American guys. One of them was in a French Legion, another one in American Marines, and they were motivated well. These guys usually search for some conflicts and stay for defensive side.
So what's their motivation?
They like to fight. They like to fight.
About the Chechens, no? The Chechens.
I know that they were on Yeah, they were on both sides, but I didn't meet any Chechens. So, but I know, yeah, that they fight it for Ukraine and against Ukraine, because there are two separate groups of Chechen.
There was when the Kadyrovцы fight against Ukrainians in the Russian side, and the Dudayevцы, who is now living in the Europe, they just came and fight against the Chechens, but in the Ukrainian side. I heard that.
Yeah, our laws allow to fight for us foreign guys. They just sign a contract, Ukrainian contract, and that's all. Our security checks them, if they, and that's all. And then they fight for us.
Okay, but they joined your army,
Yeah, in contract service.
Okay, contract service.
Yeah.
How you make the discipline in your unit, during the fight, during the chaos, and what was the main challenges? Not about the discipline in your unit or in your company battalion, and of course in general.
About challenges, it was in 2020, 1 year ago, when I went by wounded sergeant with two guys from Reki and with combat medic. And that guys from Reki, they wanted to go, they don't want to go. And I needed to loudly explain them that that's their profession, that they should do that. But it depends on situation. Sometimes you haven't too much time just to sit and explain why they should do that, and that sometimes you haven't too much time. You just should loudly cry and say to them that you should do that. And they always look at the commander. If commander don't afraid, they will come with him. In every battalion we have a position of guy who is whose duties are discipline and moral of soldiers in battalion. And he always speaks with commanders, with platoon commanders, company commanders, ask them if there are any problems in their position, and if there is any problems, that guy comes to that position and speak with the soldier or soldiers if there are a group of them and ask for problems. So we try to solve their problems, because usually all these social problems, he's too long didn't see his family, or he want vacation, or he wait for salary or something else.
I had a technical question related to your presentation of today. The question was, you use your life experience to find these 8 truths of war. Have your comrades, your brothers in arms, reached similar conclusions during their experiences, or are there some points where you might disagree with them?
I need to ask them, I don't know. It's the first time that I presented to you. I wrote it yesterday, so. No, it's all in your head. So if you want to say something to people, if you want to share your experience, you just need to go to your past and find in your head what critical points was from 2013 in my choice to 2021. And these 8 rules, it's like 2 critical points was in my life, where I stopped and find something new for myself. A man after war is a man who sometimes need to go for psychological help. So all our situations, especially bad situation, are in our head, and we can laugh, we can smile, but sometimes it doesn't work. So when we see that something went wrong in my head, I'm going for psychological help. It's normal in our country. It's problem that all countries that was in war found and do the same.
I think these problems will go with the injury guys, with the invalids, with all those.
Not only human can be healthy outside, but inside a big problem. When he lost all his section, for example, and he's only who stay alive, it will be always in your head. As I say, he can be normal, he can smile, laugh, but sometimes something went wrong in your head. It's a problem.
Where do you
years from this moment
okay.
in the military academy of Lithuania. And why you retired? Why you go to the reserve? That's my
okay.
audition.
So, begin from the first question, after 5, 10, I don't know about 10 years, but if we speak about 5 years, I think it may be like a political activity. So I'm working about that now, and it's a normal practice for our veterans to find ourselves in some kind of life. For me, I think it will be a political way. For about my reasons why I came out from army, it was not one reason. So one of them is social reasons, that in 27 years I still haven't family, still haven't a girl. Because our battalion, it's combat battalion, we are on training ground or we are on warfare zone. So you haven't time for yourself, you haven't time for your family. It may be 2-3 months in a year. And a big example for me is my comrades from battalion. A lot of them are divorced because of that. The second problem is that I didn't understand some decisions of my battalion commander of that situation last year, and I understand that I don't want to work with him. So.
Rob, kurde turėjai gerai, stop.
Rob, it's like
I have a question about the Ukrainian youth, more specifically in the west side of Ukraine, where there is less fighting. How is the motivation there? Do the young people want to fight, or they are tired of all the fighting, or are they running away? What's the situation?
Some of them are tired and go out after ending of their contract. Some of them come to us. It's a process. Then one comes out, another come in, and that's all. Because 8 years, we have 8 years war. And for this 8 years, a guy who was 10 years old now can serve in army. So yeah, somebody come in, somebody come out. It's a normal process.
But the whole society and the whole army, it's a little bit tired of the whole war. Yeah.
We don't like to say that we are tired of the war. Because usually Ukrainian civilians say that we are tired of the war, and we always ask why. Why you are tired? You are living in capital in Kiev, and you don't know what is war. You didn't see that. How can you be tired?
Okay, that's good.
Прошу. So I see you have a lot of badges, yeah, and does these badges matter to you in some kind of way, or is just some kind of symbol to you?
He asking about your medals. Like every medal is like for what? You can just say for some.
Okay, it's for GFO zone.
What is GFO zone?
Joint Operation Forces Zone. It's like previously was ATO zone. So everybody who was on the war have this medal. The another medal is for capturing Mariupol against Russian separatists. The third medal, I don't remember what is it. It's for defense of our country. It's like non-military. That's for honor. That's for ATO zone. It's orden, jak? Orden. It's an orden for bravery. It's one of the biggest medals in our army, and that's from Lithuanian army. Lithuanian when I was in Kaunas. This one.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
The qualification side.
That's like veteran of a war for excellent service. I don't remember how to say it in English. And this too. It's all like. Since you pass some tasks on the warfare zone, your comrades can assign you to one or another medal. It depends on what you've done or what you've not done. For everyone who died on the war, they have the same orden for bravery.
Okay, then my last question. So, what will be the ending of the war? or it won't be any
What will?
ending. Как закончится война?
I don't know how. We will see. Maybe together.
Hope not together.
Interesting question, interesting answer.
Okay, tai ačiū visiems dalyvavusiems. Dabar šypsomės. Gerai būtų, kad tų stalų nesimatytų ir kompų. Gerai, S5 padarė fotkės, ačiū. Tai, palaukit, dar aš įteiksiu dovaną, palaukit, dar nesiskirstykit.